Hey everyone, Gene Ginsburg here and Angela Giles.
Hey everyone, woohoo! LinkedIn, did you see the news about LinkedIn this morning before we dive in?
No, what's up?
So they just laid off a bunch of people, like their sales team, basically, because
Oh.
corporate people aren't hiring. So that's why it's really important that you become an entrepreneur and you kick butt.
Yeah, no, that's I did not see that. So that's an
Yeah,
interesting point.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised these days. Things are definitely not moving in the right direction. So I guess people, I mean, I know there's a lot of companies that are laying off people, and I'm sure that LinkedIn is one of them. But yes, now is the time to become entrepreneurial, you're right? I mean, during the 2008 crisis, a lot of companies came out of that. Airbnb and a bunch of companies came out of the 2008 crisis because they were entrepreneurial. So something to consider, right?
Absolutely. It's really interesting to me too. Like in 2008, when that 2008, 2009 thing happened, I want to share with you an experience and then let's dive into LinkedIn. My husband worked construction. He like builds multi-million dollar homes and he got laid off. And so it was, he got unemployment, but you can't raise a family on unemployment. So it was up to me. And I had my business and, I literally like massively leveled up during that time because someone had to put food on the table. And I learned a lot. And here's what I will say. If you're like thinking of, if you're in our group or you're listening to us and you're like, okay, I need to level my business up. I want to grow. Right now is the perfect time to grow because there's people online that are looking for the skill set or looking for the thing that you have. And there's LinkedIn right now is super popular. It's becoming like, it's way more popular than it used to be. And I think it's because of the logarithm, because your stuff still gets seen by everyone versus like on Facebook, where only a handful of people see your stuff every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, that's a very good point about the LinkedIn algorithm is that it is still capable of getting of your content being shown, whereas with places like Facebook or even Instagram, it is much more challenging to get into the feed these days because of the algorithm. So
Mhm.
so with LinkedIn, that's something to definitely to consider when you are selecting your platforms where you're going to be doing your content and your business. So I guess before we jump into like how to get followers and connections on LinkedIn, the question that I get asked very, very extremely often is which platform should I use or which social media platform should I use? Well, honestly, it is where your audiences are hanging out. So if they are hanging out on Facebook, then that's probably the place, or Instagram, then that's the place. If you're more of a B2B type of organization, then LinkedIn is the place. So that's why we're talking all about LinkedIn this week, is because, um, for example, for my bit, so I have a consulting business outside of all of the other businesses that I have. My main business, which has been around for 7 years, has been my consulting business, where we offer consulting services to entrepreneurs for about digital marketing and social media. So that's been going on for a long time, and so my ideal target market is hanging out mostly on LinkedIn because I go after entrepreneurs and small to medium sized businesses, anywhere from $10 to $50 million in revenue. So for me, LinkedIn is a great platform. It just depends on what your business is and where your audience are hanging out. So that's something to consider because I get that question asked a lot.
Well, absolutely. And I love LinkedIn. I will tell you, I'm a fan of, I like all the social media networks. I mean, of course, that's what I do. But I will say, I don't spend near as much time on Instagram as I used to because Facebook bought Instagram. So now I'm on LinkedIn a heck of a lot more. Like literally, I put up an event last week and we have 400, I think it's 400 people, women attending, or 361. I can't remember the number now, because LinkedIn is just so awesome about sharing your feed. It's so cool and it's amazing and it can be very, very lucrative. I just heard about a lady through one of my old mentors, Jean, that she had one of her clients come to her and say, what do I do? I'm not selling. And Jane's like, well, go try LinkedIn. She went on LinkedIn. She made $40,000 last month just on LinkedIn, reaching out to entrepreneurs and other businesses. So Absolutely. I say go for LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about how do you get connections and followers on LinkedIn. So let's talk about some best practices and how do you actually get more exposure, because obviously the bigger the network is, the more people will see it, and then also your second and even potentially third connections will see your content on LinkedIn. So the way that LinkedIn works is a little bit different, of course, than a Facebook or an Instagram. With Facebook or Instagram, you can follow people and you don't necessarily have to be connected to them. But for the most part, on LinkedIn, of course, you can follow people, but mostly it's like bigger gurus in the space. But for the most part, you have to be connected. So both parties have to accept the connection in order to connect on LinkedIn. So it's something to consider when you're looking into LinkedIn. And of course, content is always going to be key, like it is with any other social media platform, is that create engaging content specifically for the platform. And I think that's a mistake that I see with entrepreneurs, is that they a lot of times just create content and then they splash it all over every single platform. But, remember that each platform is going to be a little bit different, right? LinkedIn is different from a Facebook, from an Instagram, and so on and so forth, from a TikTok. So create content that's appropriate for that specific platform. So for LinkedIn, longer video, typically, you don't probably not like a minute, where like on TikTok, so you want to create longer video, create content that's professional, right? Because you're talking to a professional network now versus like an Instagram or a Facebook. Anything else you want to add, Angela?
Well, for me, honestly, too, the way I get connections is by commenting and liking and really engaging with other people and showing up, and then, on other people's feeds, right? And so people reach out to me then, and they're like, oh, wow, I like what you said. And the other thing the way I get connections is I go in groups and I provide value in different groups in LinkedIn, and people reach out to me then. Because I provide so much value. So I'm all about providing value. And, I've always been all about providing value. But one of the things that you had told me, Jean, several months ago was that you were on LinkedIn and you were, sharing a lot of really good content 4 times a day. So I started doing that, right? And it's really paid off. I mean, I've grown my LinkedIn connections from around 3,100 to over 4,600 connections now, just by putting out really engaging, good content. And here's the other thing. And commenting and liking, of course, people don't necessarily always like my content and I get 1,000 likes on it, but people lurk. And do you know what I mean? And they like my stuff. And so they reach out to me and they want to connect. So it's been really interesting how my organic has grown. My organic connection request has grown because I'm more engaged and I'm sharing good content.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all about content, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about engaging your audiences. And I hear that actually a lot also on my end, is that like people that I meet, whether I meet them virtually or in person, a lot of times they'll say like, hey, I see you on LinkedIn all the time. So they might not necessarily be, again, liking or always engaging, but they're always seeing. So it's kind of like almost like a branding play, right? People see my face, people see my content, people see my name, and they're always like, oh, I see you on LinkedIn all the time. So
not only that, but you're brilliant at what you do. I mean,
well, thank you.
Some of the stuff that you do for your clients blows me away, like how much money they make because of what you do. So, what can I say?
Yeah, I mean, it's a joint effort, definitely. My clients are also brilliant as well. So it's like I'm just helping them push their content out there. So in terms of best practices for getting connections on LinkedIn, engaging content so people would want to connect with you. And then doing your own outreach and research, right? Mm-hmm. So find individuals that would make sense for you to connect with on LinkedIn and then send them connect requests. So, but do your research, send a note, especially if it's like cold individuals, the ones who have never met you or don't know anything about you or your brand. I usually add in a message which says why I want to connect with them. So make that appealing as well. Don't just spam people. LinkedIn has become kind of a platform for spamming, and I get those messages all the time because businesses, I mean, there are bots that do that for LinkedIn, and you can get a bot for LinkedIn. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but there are bots out there that do that for you, so you can send automated messages through LinkedIn. But again, a lot of times those messages just get unanswered, so just be careful with that if you end up doing that. And it is against LinkedIn terms and conditions, so that's why I don't recommend it. But I know that they are out there, so something to consider.
Yeah. So what I would say too, so you don't want to, even if you're doing this organically and you want to do outreach, here's something that, and we just, here's something that is a best practice. And we just actually had a woman on our podcast who's amazing. And she's a contributor to a major publication. And she said she gets like 30 plus, requests every day on LinkedIn. And people are like, oh, well, can you feature me? Can you feature me? Can you feature me? And her thing is, well, what can you do for me? So when you're doing your organic outreach, think about the person you're outreaching to. How can you serve them? Like, what is it they need? I personally think if you sent 5 organic connection requests that were well thought out, where you actually went and looked at the person's profile and like thought about what you could potentially help them with, something free, something really cool, is much better than sending 50 like just canned copy paste type of connection requests. Because it shows that you actually care and you're actually a very conscious entrepreneur. And I think that that's much more beneficial and you'll get more business.
Quality over quantity, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. We're going to talk more about LinkedIn this week. So if you guys have any questions, we did have a comment. Ellie Jane Gibbs. I guess somebody was tagging. Yeah. Jasmine tagged someone. So yes, if you guys have any questions about LinkedIn, please share with us either through the comments here, or you can private message us, and we always love to answer questions. And then of course, Tech Thursdays. Thursday, we're going to be talking about all tech related things, and especially related to LinkedIn. So please send in your questions, your comments. We love hearing from you, and we will see you all guys tomorrow. Same bat time and same bat place.